Kang Min-Jae owned Seattle. The South Korean immigrant had carved out an empire from nothing, luxury hotels dotting the waterfront, construction contracts that rebuilt downtown, nightclubs where the city's elite mingled under crystal chandeliers. On paper, every venture was pristine. Beneath the polished surface, his connections ran deep enough to make him untouchable. Senators returned his calls within minutes. Competing syndicates had learned the hard way not to encroach on his territory. His penthouse suite in the Columbia Tower offered views that stretched from Puget Sound to the Cascade Mountains, a sanctuary that cost more than entire city blocks. But on this particular Christmas Eve, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the city's festive glow, Min-Jae sat in complete darkness. No celebrations awaited him. His mother had died 4 years earlier in Busan, and he'd been locked in negotiations with the Russians, unable to return for her funeral. The guilt still gnawed at him during quiet moments. His older brother had severed all contact, ashamed of what Min-Jae had become, refusing every attempt at reconciliation. The women who occasionally shared his bed never lingered beyond sunrise, and his subordinates respected him out of fear, not affection. 41 years old, wealthier than the boy who'd landed at SeaTac with $300 and desperate dreams could have imagined, commander of an empire that spanned the Pacific Northwest, yet completely hollow inside. The expensive scotch in his glass did nothing to fill that void. He had no idea that in a cramped studio apartment 9 miles away, a 6-year-old boy was about to transform everything. Welcome to Cora Story Tales, besties. Please like and subscribe because what happens next will leave you breathless. The French Bistro on First Avenue was among Min-Jae's legitimate enterprises, upscale, intimate, the kind of establishment where reservations were booked 2 months in advance. He made monthly inspections, preferring the evening service when he could observe from his private corner table without disrupting the flow. Tonight, December 22nd, the restaurant hummed with pre-holiday excitement. Couples toasted over champagne. Groups of friends celebrated with elaborate tasting menus. Min-Jae nursed his second scotch, observing the choreographed dance of service with the detachment of someone who owned the theater but never took the stage. That's when she caught his attention. The server moved through the crowded dining room with fluid grace, carrying 4 plates despite the exhaustion etched into her posture. She was stunning, deep brown skin that seemed to glow under the soft lighting, natural curls gathered in an elegant updo, eyes that radiated warmth even through obvious fatigue. But it was the tension in her movements that held his focus. The anxious way she checked her phone between courses, worry flickering across her beautiful features. Jasmine Williams. He'd noticed the name on payroll reports, but never given it a second thought. Just another employee in the machinery that generated his fortune. She approached his table with professional composure. "Good evening, Mr. Kang. May I bring you anything else?" Her voice carried a melodic quality, the Pacific Northwest accent softened by something distinctly Southern. "Alabama, maybe. Or Georgia. I'm satisfied." His own accent colored the English 18 years in America hadn't completely smoothed away soul from his pronunciation. She nodded, pivoting to leave, but her phone vibrated. Min-Jae watched her expression crumble, professionalism dissolving into raw fear as she read whatever message had arrived. Her fingers trembled against the screen. "Is there a problem?" The question surprised him. He made a point of not involving himself in staff personal matters. Jasmine's gaze snapped up, the professional mask sliding desperately back into place. "No, sir. I apologize. If you'll excuse me." She hurried toward the kitchen, but not before Min-Jae caught her wiping tears from her eyes. He should have ignored it. Should have finished his drink and returned to his empty tower. Instead, he found himself following, catching the end of her whispered phone conversation in the staff hallway. "I know, baby. I know your chest hurts." Her voice fractured with emotion. "Mommy's coming home as soon as her shift ends, okay? Miss Rodriguez is right there with you. Use your nebulizer like we practiced." I know we're running low on medicine. I'll handle it. I love you more than the whole world." When she ended the call, her shoulders heaved with silent sobs. Min-Jae cleared his throat softly. Jasmine whirled around, mortification flooding her features. "Mr. Kang, I'm so sorry. I promise this won't affect my service." "Your son is ill." "Not a question." Jasmine's jaw set defensively. "He has asthma." "It's managed. The situation is under control." Pride sharpened her words despite the tears still glistening on her cheeks. Min-Jae studied her carefully. Most people couldn't maintain eye contact with him for more than a few seconds. She met his gaze directly, chin lifted in defiance even as she trembled, refusing to break, even while breaking. Something shifted behind his ribs. "What does the medication cost?" "I don't need your charity." The words came out sharp, defensive. "I haven't offered charity. I asked a question." Jasmine's breath hitched. For a moment, he thought she might tell him exactly where he could go. Then her shoulders sagged, defeat winning over dignity. "For $100. Insurance won't cover it. I get paid Friday, but this check went to rent and his Christmas gifts." And she stopped, visibly pulling herself together. "I shouldn't be telling you this. I need to get back to work." For $100. He'd spent more than that on the shoes currently on his feet without a second thought. It meant nothing to him. Less than nothing. To her, it represented everything. "Take tomorrow off," he said quietly. "Full pay. Purchase your son's medication." Jasmine's eyes widened. "What?" "No, I can't. Tomorrow's Christmas Eve, our busiest service. You need every server. I own the establishment. I determine what I need." Min-Jae extracted his wallet, pulling out 5 crisp $100 bills. "For the medication and whatever else he requires." "Mr. Kang, I can't accept your money." "You can. You will." He pressed the bills into her palm, closing her fingers around them. "Not for you. For your son." Her chin trembled. "Why?" "Excellent question." Min-Jae didn't have an answer that made logical sense. "Because he needs it. I'll repay every cent. I don't care how long it takes." "No." His tone left no room for negotiation. "Care for your child. That's sufficient payment." Jasmine stared at the money, then at him, confusion and gratitude warring in her expression. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much." She left quickly, probably afraid he'd reconsider. Min-Jae returned to his table, but the scotch tasted different now. Less bitter, somehow. He told himself it was a momentary impulse. Tomorrow he'd forget the waitress and her sick son, return to his scheduled isolation. But that night, alone in his penthouse, he kept seeing Jasmine's face, the fierce love in her eyes when she spoke to her child, the way poverty couldn't crush her dignity. His phone rang. His second in command, Park Sung-ho. "Boss, the shipment's cleared customs. You want a review before tomorrow?" "It's late," Min-Jae interrupted. "You never postpone business." Suspicion crept into Sung-ho's voice. "Tomorrow," he repeated and disconnected. Christmas Eve. He'd spend it like every other day alone, working, pretending the emptiness didn't exist. That was the plan. The following afternoon, Min-Jae found himself driving south instead of north, away from his tower toward neighborhoods where his Mercedes drew suspicious stares. He told himself he was inspecting another property, reviewing assets. He was lying. The pharmacy on Rainier Avenue was modest, packed with last-minute shoppers. Min-Jae stood out like a searchlight, expensive overcoat, designer everything, the kind of presence that made people unconsciously step aside. He almost left. Then he saw them. Jasmine stood at the counter, a small boy tucked against her side. The child wheezed softly, his breathing labored despite the mask covering his nose and mouth. He wore a jacket too thin for Seattle winter, but his eyes sparkled as he clutched a small stuffed snowman. "Here you are, Ms. Williams." The pharmacist handed over a white bag. "This should last 3 months. Thank you so much. Jasmine's relief was palpable. The boy tugged his mother's sleeve. Mama, can we get hot chocolate before we go home? Sweetie, we need to save. There's a coffee shop across the street, Min-Jae said. Both of them jumped. Jasmine's eyes went wide. Mr. Kang, what are you doing here? I had business nearby. The lie came smoothly. I was about to get coffee. Join me. Oh, we couldn't. Please. The boy looked up at him with those bright eyes. Mama never lets me get hot chocolate. It's Christmas Eve. Min-Jae found himself crouching to the child's level, something he never did. Then we absolutely need hot chocolate. What's Christmas without it? The boy beamed. See, Mama? He understands. Jasmine looked torn between gratitude and wariness. Mr. Kang, you've already done so much. It's coffee and hot chocolate. His gaze held hers. Nothing more. After a long pause, she nodded. The coffee shop was cozy and festive, decorated with evergreen garland and white lights. They claimed a corner table. The boy bounced in his seat, chattering about school and Christmas and his favorite superhero named Spider-Man. Min-Jae ordered hot chocolate for the boy, coffee for himself and Jasmine, and found himself genuinely listening to the child's enthusiastic storytelling. And then Mrs. Kim said, we're gonna learn about Korea after break. That's where you're from, right? Mama told me. Do you know taekwondo? My friend Devin takes taekwondo and he says, Marcus, breathe. Jasmine interjected gently. Let Mr. Kang drink his coffee. It's fine. And surprisingly, it was. The boy's energy was infectious in a way he hadn't experienced in years. Their drinks arrived. Marcus took a sip of hot chocolate and sighed dramatically. This is the best day ever. Something in Min-Jae's chest tightened painfully. What are your Christmas plans? The question escaped before he could stop it. Jasmine's smile was soft. Nothing elaborate. Dinner at home, watch holiday movies, open presents in the morning. Mama got me a skateboard, Marcus announced, then clapped his hand over his mouth. Oops. That was supposed to be a surprise. You just spoiled it, Jasmine teased, kissing her son's forehead. The easy affection between them was foreign and fascinating. Min-Jae couldn't remember the last time someone had touched him with such casual love. What about you, Mr. Kang? Jasmine asked. Big plans? No. The word came out flat. I'll be working. Marcus's face scrunched in confusion. On Christmas? But that's sad. Don't you have family? Marcus. Jasmine's face flushed. That's not polite. It's fine, Min-Jae interrupted, though the child's innocent question had struck deep. No family nearby. Marcus studied him with the unnerving perception children sometimes possessed. Then he announced, you should come to our house for Christmas. Marcus. What? He's lonely, Mama. Nobody should be lonely on Christmas. The boy turned those bright eyes on him. We don't have a fancy house or anything, and dinner's just ham because turkey costs too much. But we have lots of love, right, Mama? Jasmine looked mortified. Mr. Kang, I am so sorry. He doesn't understand. I would like that. The word shocked all three of them. Jasmine's mouth fell open. What? If the invitation is genuine, I would like to join you for Christmas. Min-Jae met Marcus's delighted gaze, then his mother's stunned one. If that's acceptable. Yes! Marcus pumped his fist. Mama, he's coming. This is gonna be the best Christmas ever. Jasmine still looked dazed. Are you serious? Was he? Min-Jae had built an empire on calculated decisions. This was impulse, madness, completely unlike him. Yes, he said quietly. I'm serious. Christmas morning arrived with freezing rain blanketing Seattle. Min-Jae stood outside the worn apartment building in Rainier Valley, expensive wine and an ridiculously large gift bag in hand, questioning every decision that had led him here. He'd faced down rival syndicate leaders without hesitation, negotiated 8-figure deals with ice in his veins, but climbing these worn steps to a stranger's apartment made his pulse race. Before he could second-guess himself further, the door flew open. "You came." Marcus threw himself at his legs with zero self-preservation instinct. Mama, he's here." Min-Jae froze, unsure how to respond to the small human attached to his knees. Slowly, awkwardly, he patted the boy's head. Jasmine appeared in the doorway wearing jeans and a green sweater, her curls loose and framing her face. She looked younger, softer, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with makeup or designer clothes. "I'm so sorry." "Marcus, let the man breathe." She gently extracted her son. "Please come in. And I have to admit, I half expected you to cancel." "I don't break my word." Min-Jae stepped inside, immediately struck by the contrast. The apartment was tiny living room, kitchen, and a hallway that probably led to 2 small bedrooms. But it was warm, clean, decorated with obvious care. A small artificial tree sat in the corner, covered in handmade ornaments and drugstore tinsel. The scent of baking ham and sweet potatoes filled the air. It was nothing like his penthouse with its cold minimalism and expensive art. It felt like home. "This is for you," he offered Jasmine the wine. "And this is for Marcus." The boy gasped at the enormous bag. "For me? Really?" He tore into it with gleeful abandon, pulling out a brand new skateboard helmet, knee pads, and a stuffed lion nearly as big as he was. "Mama, look. It's a lion, like Mr. Kang's tattoo." Jasmine's eyes widened. "Mr. Kang, this is too much. Call me Min-Jae." He shrugged off his coat. "And it's Christmas." "Min-Jae? I'm not sure I can pronounce that correctly." "Min-Jae," he said it slowly. Min like mean, but softer. Jae like Jay the bird. "Min-Jae," she repeated carefully. The way his name sounded in her voice did something strange to his pulse. "I'm Jasmine, but you probably knew that." "I did." Their eyes held for a moment too long. "Can I call you Mr. Lion?" Marcus interrupted, hugging his new stuffed animal. "Because of your tattoo?" Min-Jae blinked. "I suppose so." "Yes." "Mama, can Mr. Lion help with dinner?" "Please, Marcus. He's a guest." "I can help." The offer surprised him as much as it clearly surprised Jasmine. "If you need it." She studied him, wariness mixing with curiosity. "Have you ever cooked before?" "I can follow instructions." Famous last words. But she smiled. "Okay, come on." The kitchen was barely big enough for 2 people. Min-Jae found himself hyper-aware of every accidental brush of shoulders, every time Jasmine reached past him for a utensil. She smelled like cocoa butter and vanilla. "So you really don't have family here?" she asked, stirring gravy. "No. My mother passed away 4 years ago." "My brother," he paused. "We don't speak." "I'm sorry." Genuine sympathy softened her features. "That must be incredibly lonely." "It is what it is." He focused on mashing potatoes, something he vaguely remembered his mother teaching him decades ago. "You mentioned Marcus's father." "Died 5 years ago. Police officer. Shot during a traffic stop." Jasmine's voice stayed steady, but pain flickered in her eyes. "Terrence was a good man. Worked hard, loved us fiercely. Didn't make much money, but he gave us everything." "I'm sorry." "Life happens." She managed a sad smile. "We survive." They worked in companionable silence for a while. Marcus provided constant background entertainment, playing with his toys and singing Christmas carols off-key. "Can I ask you something?" Jasmine's voice dropped. "Why did you really come? I mean, a man like you could be anywhere right now. Luxury parties, important people. Instead, you're in my tiny kitchen making mashed potatoes." Min-Jae considered lying, offering some smooth explanation. Instead, he told the truth. "Because your son was right. Nobody should be alone on Christmas. And I've been alone for a very long time." Jasmine's expression softened. "Well, you're not alone today." Something in his chest cracked open. Dinner was simple but delicious: baked ham, mashed potatoes, collard greens, dinner rolls. They ate at the small table, Marcus chattering between bites about school and his friends and everything he wanted to be when he grew up. Min-Jae couldn't remember the last time he'd sat at a table with people who weren't business associates, where conversation flowed without ulterior motives, where laughter came easily. "Mr. Lion, do you have kids?" Marcus asked suddenly. "No." "Why not?" "Marcus." Jasmine shot her son a look. "What?" "I'm just asking." Min-Jae surprised himself by answering honestly. "I never thought I'd be a good father. My work is complicated." "What do you do?" "I own businesses. Real estate, restaurants." "Oh." Marcus considered this. "Well, I think you'd be a good dad. You're nice." If he only knew. Min-Jae had blood on his hands, had ordered things that would give this sweet child nightmares. He was the monster parents warned their children about. But when Marcus smiled at him with such innocent trust, he wanted desperately to be the person the boy thought he was. After dinner, they watched Christmas movies on Jasmine's small TV. Marcus insisted Min-Jae sit between him and his mother on the couch. The boy curled against his side, treating him like an oversized teddy bear, and Min-Jae found himself frozen by the casual affection. Halfway through the second movie, Marcus fell asleep. "I should take him to bed," Jasmine whispered. "I can carry him." Before Jasmine could protest, Min-Jae carefully lifted the sleeping child. He weighed nothing, felt impossibly fragile in his arms. He followed Jasmine to the small bedroom decorated with superhero posters and glow-in-the-dark stars. As he laid Marcus in bed, the boy stirred. "Mr. Lion?" "Yes." "Will you come back for New Year's?" Min-Jae glanced at Jasmine, who looked equally surprised. "Would you like me to?" "Uh-huh. You're part of our family now." The words hit him like a physical blow. "Then I'll come back," he promised softly. Marcus smiled and drifted back to sleep. In the living room, Jasmine poured them both wine. They sat on the couch, comfortable silence settling between them. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For today. For being so patient with Marcus. She gestured helplessly. "Everything. Thank you for inviting me." Min-Jae meant it. "This was the best Christmas I've had in 20 years. Jasmine's eyes searched his face. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Someone colder. More distant. The boss who walks through the restaurant like we're furniture." She smiled slightly. "But you mashed potatoes in my kitchen and let my son call you Mr. Lion. Your son is very persuasive." "He is." Jasmine's voice softened. "He sees the good in everyone, even when maybe he shouldn't." "Is there good in me?" The question escaped before he could stop it. Jasmine held his gaze. "I think so. You wouldn't be here if there wasn't." They talked until midnight about everything and nothing, her childhood in Atlanta, his journey from Seoul, her dreams of finishing nursing school, his complicated relationship with the empire he'd built. She told him about Terrence, her voice warm with remembered love. He told her about his mother, the shame he carried for not being there when she died. When Min-Jae finally stood to leave, Jasmine walked him to the door. "Same time next week?" he asked. "For New Year's? Are you serious?" "I don't joke about holiday plans." She laughed, the sound doing dangerous things to his equilibrium. "Then yes. Same time." He was halfway down the stairs when she called his name. "Min-Jae." He turned. Marcus was right. "You're not alone anymore." Those words followed him all the way home. New Year's Eve arrived with bitter cold and unexpected complications. Min-Jae had spent the week in a dangerous state of distraction. Business associates noticed. Sung-ho openly questioned whether his boss had lost his mind. "You're going to a party?" Sung-ho repeated, incredulous. "You, the man who calls New Year's amateur hour?" "It's not a party." Min-Jae signed documents without reading them, another first. "It's dinner." "With who?" "None of your business," he almost said. Instead, friends. The word felt foreign on his tongue. "Friends?" His second-in-command's eyes narrowed. "You don't have friends." "I do now." He left before more questions could come. The gift shop on Pine Street was obscenely expensive. Min-Jae barely noticed the prices as he selected items: an art set for Marcus, a cashmere scarf for Jasmine, ingredients for Korean food he planned to cook for them. The saleswoman rang him up with practiced efficiency. "Lucky family." "They're not my—" He stopped. What were they? Not family. Not yet. Maybe never. But not nothing anymore. Yes. Lucky. He was loading bags into his car when his phone rang. Unknown number. Yes. Mr. Kang. Jasmine's voice, tight with fear. "I'm so sorry to call. I didn't know who else. There's a man outside my building. He's been there for an hour watching." And Min-Jae's blood went cold. "Lock your door. Don't open it for anyone. I'm coming." He made the drive in 14 minutes, traffic laws becoming suggestions. The black SUV outside Jasmine's building was exactly what he'd feared: amateur muscle, probably loan sharks or small-time dealers who thought a woman alone was easy prey. They learned otherwise. Min-Jae approached with the lazy confidence of a predator who'd already won. 3 men stood by the SUV, smoking and laughing. They noticed him approaching and straightened. "Wrong neighborhood, pretty boy," the largest one sneered. "Keep walking." Min-Jae smiled. It wasn't pleasant. "You're parked outside my friend's building. I'd like to know why." "Your friend?" The man spat. "That bit." He didn't finish the sentence. Min-Jae moved faster than any of them expected, his taekwondo training making the fight brutally one-sided. 30 seconds later, all 3 were on the ground, groaning. Min-Jae crouched beside the leader, voice dropping to a deadly whisper. "Listen carefully. Jasmine Williams and her son, they're under my protection now. Mine. Spread the word. Anyone who bothers them, looks at them wrong, breathes near their building, they answer to Kang Min-Jae." "Understood." Recognition flashed in the man's eyes, followed by terror. "Kang? Holy SH, we didn't know. Now you do. Leave. Don't come back." They scrambled into their SUV and fled. Min-Jae took a moment to compose himself before heading upstairs. When Jasmine opened the door, her relief was palpable. "Thank God. Are you okay?" "I saw from the window. Did they hurt you?" "I'm fine." He stepped inside, noting how Marcus peeked from behind his mother, eyes wide. "They won't bother you again." "Who are they?" "Nobody important. They made a mistake." Jasmine studied him with new wariness. You're more than just a restaurant owner, aren't you?" Min-Jae could have lied. Should have. Instead, yes. "Are you dangerous?" "Very." She should have been terrified, should have told him to leave. Instead, she asked quietly, "Are you dangerous to us?" "Never." The word came out fierce. "I would never hurt you or Marcus. I swear on everything I have." Long silence. Then Jasmine nodded slowly. Okay, I believe you." She managed a shaky smile. "Come on. Dinner's almost ready, and Marcus has been asking when you'd get here every 5 minutes." Just like that, she accepted him. Danger and all. Dinner was Korean food this time. Min-Jae had brought ingredients and cooked bulgogi, kimchi fried rice, japchae. Marcus wrinkled his nose at the kimchi but loved everything else. "This is so good," he declared through a mouthful of beef. "Mr. Lion, you should cook for us all the time." "Marcus, don't talk with your mouth full." But Jasmine smiled. Though he's right. This is incredible. My mother's recipes. Min-Jae felt the familiar ache. "She made sure I could cook before I left Korea." Said a man who couldn't feed himself wasn't really a man. Smart woman. She was. After dinner, they taught him to play Uno. Marcus delighted in beating him repeatedly. When the boy went to brush his teeth, Min-Jae and Jasmine found themselves alone again. "Can I ask you something?" She curled into the corner of the couch, wine glass in hand. "Those men tonight, what did they want?" "Money. They thought you were vulnerable, an easy target. And now they don't. Now they know you're protected." By me. Jasmine absorbed this. I don't need a savior, Min-Jae. I know. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. He met her gaze directly. But everyone needs backup sometimes. Even the strong. She smiled slightly. Is that what you are? My backup? If you'll let me be. And what do you get out of this arrangement? Good question. What did he get? Time with a woman who saw him as human instead of monster? A child who hugged him without fear? Dinners that felt like family? Everything he'd been missing? Company, he said simply. Warmth. Something real in a life that's mostly pretend. Jasmine's expression softened. You're lonely. Profoundly. So am I, she admitted quietly. It's been 5 years since Terrence died. 5 years of being strong for Marcus, keeping it together, pretending I'm okay. And I am okay most days. But sometimes she trailed off. Sometimes it's exhausting being strong alone, Min-Jae finished. Yes. Relief flickered in her eyes. Exactly. They sat in comfortable silence, watching rain streak the windows. Why us? Jasmine asked suddenly. You could have anyone, go anywhere. Why spend your time in my tiny apartment eating ham and playing Uno? Min-Jae considered his words carefully. In my world, everything is transaction. Money for loyalty, fear for respect. People want what I can give them, not who I am. But Marcus, he smiled slightly. He invited me to Christmas because he thought I was lonely. Not because of who I am or what I have. Just because he's kind. He is. Takes after his father that way. And you invited me because... Jasmine's gaze was steady. Because I think underneath all that danger and control, you're someone who deserves kindness too. Something in Min-Jae's chest cracked wider. When Marcus returned, they counted down to midnight together. At 0, Marcus threw confetti he'd made from construction paper and shrieked with glee. Happy New Year! He hugged his mother first, then launched himself at Min-Jae with the same enthusiasm. Min-Jae caught him automatically now, no longer frozen by the contact. This is gonna be the best year ever, Marcus declared. Because you're here. Over the child's head, Min-Jae met Jasmine's eyes. She mouthed, thank you. He nodded, unable to speak past the emotion lodging in his throat. When he left that night, Jasmine walked him to the door again. Same time next week? She asked with a teasing smile. I don't have an excuse this time. No holiday. You don't need an excuse. You're welcome here anytime. The words settled into his bones. Anytime, he repeated. Anytime. Min-Jae made a decision that would change everything. Tomorrow, I'll bring groceries, cook dinner properly. You don't have to. I want to. Jasmine studied him, then slowly smiled. Okay. Tomorrow. He was halfway down the stairs when she called his name again. He turned. Min-Jae? I'm glad you spent Christmas alone. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been free to spend it with us. He carried those words home like treasure. The next 3 weeks fell into an unexpected rhythm. Min-Jae appeared at Jasmine's door most evenings after Marcus's school. Sometimes he brought groceries and cooked Korean food. Sometimes Jasmine cooked soul food, and he learned about her heritage, collard greens, cornbread, peach cobbler that made him close his eyes in pleasure. He taught Marcus basic taekwondo forms in the tiny living room. The boy called it lion training and took it very seriously. Jasmine watched from the kitchen, warmth in her eyes that made his heart stutter. He took them to museums, the aquarium, places Jasmine couldn't afford on her salary. She protested initially, until he pointed out that Marcus's joy was payment enough. After that, she let him spoil them both, though she always insisted on contributing something: packed lunches, homemade desserts, her time and attention. His organization noticed the change. Sung-ho confronted him after a meeting. You're distracted. Soft. The men are talking. Let them talk. This woman, she's none of your concern. My personal life doesn't affect business. Min-Jae's tone could have frozen fire. Everything affects business. You know that. He did. But for the first time in 20 years, Min-Jae didn't care. Then reality crashed back in. It was a Tuesday evening. Min-Jae had picked up Marcus from school, another new routine Jasmine had hesitantly agreed to after he'd offered. The boy chatted about his day while Min-Jae drove, and he found himself genuinely interested in 6-year-old social dynamics. They were 2 blocks from home when the black sedan appeared. Min-Jae's instincts screamed. He accelerated, but too late. The sedan cut them off. 2 more vehicles boxed them in. "Mr. Lion?" Marcus's voice went small. "What's happening?" "Everything's fine." He kept his voice calm, even as his hand moved to the gun in his glove compartment. "Stay low, like we practiced in lion training." Marcus nodded and scrunched down in his seat. Men emerged from the vehicles, 6 of them armed. Min-Jae recognized the leader. Lee Dong-hyun, head of a rival Korean organization. Ambitious, stupid, dangerous combination. Dong-hyun approached the driver's window with a smile that promised violence. Kang Min-Jae, finally showing weakness. "Say what you came to say." Min-Jae's hand remained on his gun. "You've been neglecting business." Spending time with Dong-hyun's gaze slid to Marcus with ugly intent. Distractions. Every protective instinct Min-Jae possessed roared to life. "Careful what you look at." "Is that a threat?" Dong-hyun laughed. "You're outnumbered, unarmed." Min-Jae moved. 1 shot through the window, not to kill, but to wound. Dong-hyun went down screaming. The other men scrambled for weapons, but Min-Jae was already out of the car, using it as a shield, returning fire with lethal precision. The entire confrontation lasted 90 seconds. When silence fell, 3 men were wounded, the rest had fled, and Min-Jae's car had bullet holes in the door. Marcus sat exactly where he'd left him, eyes squeezed shut, hands over his ears. Horror crashed over Min-Jae. What had he done? He'd brought violence to this innocent child, proven he was exactly the monster he'd always been. "Marcus." His voice shook. "It's over. You're safe." The boy opened his eyes slowly. Tears streamed down his face. For the first time since they'd met, he looked at Min-Jae with fear. Something inside Min-Jae shattered. He drove Marcus home in silence. When they arrived, Jasmine took one look at her son's face and went pale. "What happened?" "We got scared," Marcus whispered. "There were bad men and guns and Mr. Lion." He started crying harder. Jasmine pulled her son close, then looked at Min-Jae with an expression he couldn't read. "Inside." "Now." He followed them up. Once Marcus was settled in his room with his tablet and headphones, Jasmine rounded on him. "What happened?" Min-Jae told her everything, the ambush, the shooting, how close it had come to disaster. "You brought that violence near my son." Jasmine's voice was dangerously quiet. "You put him in danger." "I know. I'm sorry. I should never have." "Sorry." Anger flashed in her eyes. "Sorry doesn't undo what he saw. What he'll have nightmares about." "He's 6 years old, Min-Jae." "I know." The words exploded from him. "You think I don't know? I've been trying to keep you separate from that world." "I thought I could." He stopped, helpless. "I was wrong. This is who I am. This is my life, and I have no right to contaminate yours with it." Jasmine stared at him. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you were right to be afraid of me. I'm dangerous, and everyone around me gets hurt eventually." His throat tightened. "I should go. And I shouldn't come back. That's it." Her voice rose. "You're just going to walk away? It's better." "For who?" She stepped closer, fury and fear warring in her expression. "You don't get to decide what's better for me, for us. Not after becoming part of our lives. Not after Marcus started calling you family. He shouldn't." "I'm not." "You are." Tears spilled down Jasmine's cheeks. "You're here every day. You cook dinner and help with homework and make him laugh. You're the first person besides his father who he's trusted like this. And you want to just disappear because your world followed you once. I put him in danger. Life is dangerous. Terrence died in a routine traffic stop. Should I have never let him go to work?" Jasmine swiped at her tears. "I'm terrified, okay? I'm absolutely terrified. But I'm more terrified of the hole you'll leave if you go. Min-Jae couldn't breathe. Jasmine. Do you care about us? About Marcus? She hesitated. About me. More than I should. The admission tore from him. More than is safe. Then don't run. She grabbed his hand. Stay. Fight for this. Protect us the way I know you can. But don't you dare walk away because you're scared. I'm not scared. You are. You're terrified of caring about someone and losing them. But guess what? That's life. That's love. And it's worth the risk. Love. The word hung between them like a confession. I don't know how to do this, Min-Jae said quietly. I don't know how to be normal, safe, good. Neither do I. I'm making this up as I go. Jasmine's smile was watery. But we can figure it out together. If you stay, what if I can't keep you safe? What if you can? She squeezed his hand. You're not alone in this anymore, Min-Jae. Let me help. Let us be a reason to be better. He looked at their joined hands, thought about Christmas dinner and lion training and Marcus's laugh. Thought about how empty his penthouse felt now, how 3 weeks had transformed his entire existence. I'll increase security, he said slowly. For you and Marcus. Discreetly. And I'll handle Dong-hyun properly this time. No more threats. Okay. And if there's ever real danger, we'll face it together. Jasmine stepped closer. That's what people do when they care about each other. When they care about each other. Not quite love, not yet. But close enough to make his heart race. I need to talk to Marcus, he said. Apologize. Make sure he understands. Tomorrow. Let him sleep tonight. But yes, you need to talk to him. Min-Jae nodded. Then, because he couldn't help himself, he reached up and tucked a curl behind Jasmine's ear. The gesture was tender, intimate. She didn't pull away. Thank you, he whispered. For not giving up on me. Thank you for not giving up on yourself. When he left that night, it wasn't with the finality he'd intended. It was with a promise to return, to be better, to be worthy of the family he'd accidentally found. But first, he had a rival to eliminate. The next 48 hours were brutal. Min-Jae dismantled Dong-hyun's operation with surgical precision. He called in favors, deployed resources, made it abundantly clear what happened to anyone who threatened his people. By the time he was finished, Dong-hyun was fleeing Seattle with nothing but the clothes on his back. Message sent. Message received. But victory felt hollow when he thought about Marcus's tear-stained face. He showed up at Jasmine's apartment on Thursday evening, exhausted and uncertain. She let him in without a word, and he found Marcus doing homework at the kitchen table. The boy looked up. Fear and confusion flickered in his eyes. Hey, Min-Jae said softly, crouching to his level. Can we talk? Marcus glanced at his mother, who nodded encouragingly. Okay. Min-Jae sat across from him, searching for the right words. How did you explain violence to a 6-year-old? How did you apologize for shattering innocence? I'm sorry, he started. For what happened. For scaring you. That should never have happened. Are you a bad guy? The question was direct, devastating. Sometimes, in my work, I do things that aren't good. I make decisions that hurt people, and that's on me. He held the boy's gaze. But I would never hurt you or your mama. You're the best things in my life. And I'm going to make sure nothing like that ever happens again. How? By being smarter. Better. By making sure the people who work for me understand that you're off limits. Completely untouchable. Marcus considered this with the seriousness only children possessed. Mama says everybody makes mistakes. And what matters is if you try to be better. Your mama is very wise. Are you gonna try to be better? Yes. The promise felt like an oath. For you. For your mama. For myself. Marcus studied him for a long moment. Then he slipped off his chair and hugged him. Okay. I forgive you, Mr. Lion. Relief crashed over Min-Jae so intensely he had to close his eyes. Thank you, he whispered. That night, after Marcus went to bed, Min-Jae and Jasmine sat on the couch with wine and comfortable silence. He's more resilient than I give him credit for, Jasmine said quietly. He's amazing. Like his mother. Jasmine smiled. Flattery will get you everywhere. Good to know. They sat in silence for a while, watching rain streak the windows. Then Jasmine asked the question that had been hanging between them for weeks. What is this? Us. Min-Jae's heart stuttered. What do you want it to be? I asked first. Fair enough. He set down his wine glass and turned to face her fully. I care about you. Both of you. More than I've cared about anything in 20 years. When I'm here, I feel like I'm not just the monster I've made myself into. Like maybe I can be someone better. You are someone better. Jasmine's voice was fierce. That monster, he wouldn't have spent Christmas with a stranger's family. Wouldn't cook dinner and help with homework and learn to do a 6-year-old's hair. You taught me that. Both of you. We reminded you. But it was always there. She reached for his hand. I care about you too. And that terrifies me, because I swore after Terrence that I wouldn't, that I couldn't. I know. But you're not Terrence. And this isn't that. And maybe, she took a shaky breath. Maybe it's time to stop being scared. Min-Jae's thumb traced patterns on her palm. What if I hurt you? What if you don't? The question hung between them. Then slowly, carefully, Min-Jae leaned in, giving her time to pull away, to change her mind. She didn't. Their lips met softly, tentatively. Then with growing certainty. Jasmine tasted like wine and hope and everything he'd been missing. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Wow, Jasmine whispered. Wow, he agreed. They kissed again, deeper this time, until they were tangled together on the couch, hands exploring, breath mingling, years of loneliness dissolving in shared warmth. When things threatened to escalate further, Jasmine pulled back. Marcus is down the hall. Right. Yes. Of course. She smiled at his obvious frustration. Rain check. Definitely. They settled back into comfortable cuddling instead, Jasmine's head on his chest, his arms around her. It felt ridiculously domestic, ridiculously right. Stay, she murmured. Tonight. Just stay. On the couch. On the couch. He did. And when morning came, Marcus found them tangled together under a blanket, still fully clothed, but clearly together in a new way. Does this mean Mr. Lion is your boyfriend now, Mama? He asked with a grin. Jasmine blushed. Would that be okay with you? Yes. Marcus bounced with excitement. I've been waiting forever. Min-Jae laughed, actual, genuine laughter. Forever? It's been 2 months. That's forever when you're 6. He threw himself into their cuddle pile. Best family ever. Family. The words settled into Min-Jae's heart like coming home. The next weeks were a whirlwind. Min-Jae began restructuring his operations, transitioning to more legitimate enterprises. It wouldn't happen overnight, couldn't happen overnight without starting a war. But he was working toward it, toward being someone Marcus could be proud of. He moved Jasmine and Marcus to a better apartment, not his penthouse, she'd refused, wanting to maintain some independence. But a safe building in a good neighborhood with actual security. He enrolled Marcus in a better school, set up a college fund that would guarantee his future. Jasmine protested each step, insisting she didn't need his money. But she accepted when he framed it differently. Let me give you the safety I never had. The opportunities my mother wanted for me. Please. She couldn't argue with that. His organization adjusted. Some men left, unable to accept his perceived weakness. Most stayed, recognizing that Min-Jae was still the most dangerous man in Seattle, just with something to fight for now. Sung-ho grudgingly admitted the change might not be entirely terrible. You're happier, his second-in-command observed one day. Less likely to shoot someone for breathing wrong. I was never that bad. You absolutely were. Min-Jae couldn't argue. It was late February when everything solidified. They were at Jasmine's new apartment, bigger, brighter, safer. Marcus was showing Min-Jae his latest art project while Jasmine cooked dinner. Mr. Lion, Marcus asked suddenly. Are you gonna marry Mama? Min-Jae choked on his water. Jasmine dropped a spoon. Marcus. Jasmine's face was scarlet. You can't just. Why not? Daddy used to say if you love someone, you should marry them. And Mr. Lion loves you. I can tell. Out of the mouths of babes. Min-Jae met Jasmine's eyes across the room, saw his own feelings reflected there. Love, hope, fear, possibility. You're right, he said quietly. I do love your mama. Jasmine's breath caught. And I love you, he continued, looking at Marcus. Both of you changed my life. Made me want to be better. Made me believe I could be. So you'll marry her? Marcus pressed. Marcus, baby, go wash your hands for dinner, Jasmine said, voice unsteady. Now, please. Marcus huffed but obeyed. Once he was gone, Jasmine turned to Min-Jae. Did you mean that? Every word. He crossed to her, cupping her face in his hands. I love you, Jasmine. I'm in love with you. And if you'll have me not now, not today, but someday, I want to marry you. Want to be Marcus's father officially. Want to build the family I never thought I'd have. Tears spilled down Jasmine's cheeks. You already are his father in every way that matters. And you? What do you want? You. This. All of it. She kissed him softly. I love you too. And I'm not scared anymore. Liar. You're terrified. Okay, yes. But I'm doing it anyway. He laughed and kissed her again, deeper this time, promising forever. When Marcus returned, he took one look at them and squealed. I knew it. Can I be the ring bearer? Absolutely, Min-Jae said, lifting him up. Best ring bearer in Seattle. In the whole world. In the whole world, he agreed. That night, after Marcus was asleep and Jasmine was tucked against his side, Min-Jae thought about Christmas Eve, about sitting alone in his penthouse, certain he'd die alone. About a little boy who'd said he shouldn't be lonely on Christmas. What are you thinking about? Jasmine murmured. How one invitation changed everything. She smiled against his chest. Best decision I never made. Marcus decided all on his own. Thank God for precocious 6-year-olds. Amen to that. They fell asleep tangled together, 3 hearts beating as one. Family. Christmas Eve, 1 year later. Min-Jae stood in the kitchen of their new house, not his old penthouse, but a real home in a safe neighborhood with a yard where Marcus could play, and smiled at the organized chaos around him. Marcus was decorating cookies with his grandmother. Yes, grandmother. Jasmine's mother had flown in from Atlanta, and after initial wariness about her daughter dating a reformed criminal, she'd accepted Min-Jae into the family. Mostly because Marcus adored him, and Jasmine was happier than she'd been in years. His own brother had also reconciled with him. Slowly, cautiously. He was coming tomorrow with his family. Building bridges. Jasmine moved through the kitchen with practiced ease, directing the holiday meal preparation. She wore an engagement ring now, simple, elegant, exactly her style. They'd marry in spring. Small ceremony. Just family and close friends. Baby, don't eat all the frosting, Jasmine called to Marcus. But Grandma said I could. Grandma's a bad influence. Jasmine's mother laughed. That child needs spoiling. Let him have frosting. Min-Jae caught Jasmine around the waist as she passed, pulling her in for a kiss. She melted against him. Happy, he murmured. Ridiculously. She touched his face. You. More than I ever thought possible. Gross. Marcus shouted. Stop kissing. We have cookies to finish. They broke apart laughing. Later that evening, sitting around the table with food and family and laughter, Min-Jae thought about last Christmas, about being alone, about thinking he'd always be alone. About a little boy who'd changed everything with one simple invitation. Marcus caught his eye and grinned. Best Christmas ever, Mr. Lion. Min-Jae looked around at his family, chosen, earned, loved, and his heart was full. Best Christmas ever, he agreed. If you enjoyed this story of redemption, second chances, and found family, Please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever experienced a random act of kindness that changed your life? Drop your stories below, and don't forget to check out our other heartwarming stories in the playlist. Thanks for watching, and remember, nobody should be alone during the holidays. See you in the next one.